Welcome to this deep dive
Yeah.
where we're diving into the case of Corey Richens.
hmm
It's a really,
Interesting one.
yeah,
Yeah.
a grieving widow writes a children's book about her husband's death
Right.
from an accidental fentanyl overdose.
Uh-huh.
And then a month after the book's release, she's arrested
Wow.
for his murder.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
No.
Um, I think it's interesting in this case how
Yeah.
you have two families with access to the same facts,
Uh-huh.
but they come to completely different conclusions.
Right. And so we're going to kind of dive into all of that and try to
Yeah.
make sense of it all.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the victim in this case,
Okay.
Eric Richens.
So Eric's family, they really believe that his death was no accident.
Okay.
They claim that Corey deliberately poisoned him with fentanyl.
Wow.
They even say that Eric warned them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and apparently he told them specifically, if something happens to me, Corey is to blame. Now, they also allege that there were two previous attempts by Corey to poison Eric.
Oh.
However,
Right.
there are no police reports or evidence
Oh.
to back up those claims.
Okay.
So that's just something to keep in mind.
Okay, so Eric's family thinks that this was no accident.
Yeah,
But then you have Corey and her family who say that it was an accident.
right.
What's their side of the story?
Well, Corey says that that evening was pretty normal.
Uh-huh.
She and Eric were celebrating a real estate deal.
Okay.
They had a Moscow Mule together.
Okay.
Their son was having nightmares, so she was comforting him. And then later she found Eric unresponsive in bed.
Hmm.
Now, Corey's family,
Okay.
they're suggesting that maybe Eric accidentally took a fentanyl-laced gummy
No.
because he had a habit of taking THC gummies before bed.
I see.
So that's kind of their theory.
Okay, so we have these two completely different
Yeah.
versions of events.
Right.
Um,
I think another interesting thing is that the investigation wasn't rushed at all. Right. It took months. And it was largely driven by Eric's family, who were really insisting that something wasn't right.
Okay.
But the authorities, they seem to have done a thorough job,
Yeah.
before they arrested Corey.
So it wasn't like a knee-jerk reaction
No, not at all.
to the family's pressure.
hmm
Okay.
But Corey's defense attorney,
Yeah.
he argues that even though the investigation was lengthy, there's no smoking gun.
Mm.
So the prosecution's case is largely based on circumstantial evidence.
I see. So they're having to kind of connect the dots,
Exactly.
and the jury's going to have to decide
Right.
if they buy it or not.
Yeah, so let's talk about the motive.
Okay.
Because the prosecution has a theory
Uh-huh.
about why Corey might have wanted to harm Eric.
Okay, what is it?
Well, they believe that she was after financial gain.
Okay.
Now, she did have a lot of debt from her real estate business, and there was a prenuptial agreement in place that would have limited her access to Eric's assets if they got divorced.
Oh, wow.
So the prosecution is basically saying that maybe she saw Eric's death as a way out.
Right, because she'd get more money if he was dead than if they were divorced.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's where the life insurance comes in.
Right.
Because there were 6 policies on Eric's life.
Yeah, that's what really raised some eyebrows.
Yeah.
Now, the defense, they're saying most of these were pre-existing,
Uh-huh.
and one was actually for Eric's business.
Correct.
But there's one policy in particular that's causing a lot of questions.
Right.
It was a policy for $100,000,
Okay.
and it was taken out just 2 months before Eric died.
Wow.
And get this,
Yeah.
there are some serious doubts about whether Eric actually signed the application.
Oh, wow.
It looks like his signature might have been forged.
Okay, so we have potential fraud
Yeah.
on top of a potential murder.
This is where things start to get really interesting.
Yeah, so let's move past the financial stuff for a minute and talk about some of the evidence that the prosecution's using.
Yeah.
What do they have?
Well, one of their key pieces of evidence is the testimony of a woman named Carmen Lauber.
Okay.
She's often referred to as CL.
Okay.
Now, CL worked as a house cleaner for Corey's real estate business, and she claims that she supplied Corey with fentanyl on multiple occasions before Eric's death. According to CL,
Yeah.
Corey specifically asked her for fentanyl and said she needed it for pain.
Interesting.
Now, I do want to point out that CL has a criminal history that involves drugs. So that's something that the defense is definitely going to bring up.
Right, because that would affect her credibility.
Absolutely.
Did investigators find any evidence that backs up her claims?
Well, they looked through Corey's phone.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find any direct communication about fentanyl.
Okay.
But they did find something else.
What's that?
A bunch of Google searches made on Corey's phone.
Okay.
And some of these searches are pretty concerning.
Yeah.
We're talking searches like lethal dose of fentanyl, FBI ability to recover deleted messages, life insurance payout timelines.
Wow.
Even death certificate wording for poisoning.
That does sound pretty suspicious.
Yeah, the prosecution is definitely using those searches to try to build their case.
Yeah, why would she be researching that stuff?
Right.
If she was innocent?
Well, the defense,
Yeah.
they argue that those searches were made after Eric's death.
Okay.
So their argument is that Corey was researching the accusations that were being made against her.
So she was like looking into what she was being accused of.
Exactly.
That's a good counter argument.
It is.
But it still seems kind of strange.
Yeah, it definitely raises some questions.
Is there anything else that could give us some insight into Corey?
Well, there's one more piece of evidence that's causing a lot of controversy. It's a letter that was found in Corey's jail cell. Now, the prosecution believes that this letter contains instructions for Corey's brother on how to testify.
So they're saying it's like witness tampering.
That's exactly what they're saying.
Wow.
They think she was trying to influence his testimony to connect Eric to buying pain pills in Mexico.
Yeah. So what does Corey say about this letter?
Well, she claims that it was part of a fictional book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that she was working on.
Okay.
But to make things even more confusing, her mother and her brother have given conflicting accounts.
Oh, wow.
About whether the letter was real or not.
So even her own family can't agree.
Right.
Did the court do anything about this letter?
Well, they looked into it.
Yeah.
But they didn't find enough evidence to charge her with witness tampering.
So it's just another weird piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's a very strange detail.
It seems like every piece of evidence in this case has like multiple interpretations. Is there anything else that can help us understand the dynamic between Corey and Eric?
Well, to really understand their relationship, we need to talk about this mansion that Corey was trying to buy.
Oh, right, the big mansion.
Yeah, it was 20,000 square feet.
That's huge.
It's massive.
Okay, why is the mansion important?
Well, according to Eric's family, he didn't want Tori to buy it.
Oh, really?
He thought it was a terrible financial decision.
I see.
But for Corey,
Yeah.
this was her dream. It represented her success and everything she had worked for.
Okay, so it was like a point of contention between them.
Definitely.
So did she end up buying it even though Eric didn't want her to?
She did.
Wow.
But it didn't turn out so well.
Oh, no. What happened?
The place became a total mess.
Oh, no.
And she ended up selling it for way less than she paid for it.
So like a financial disaster?
Yeah, a complete disaster.
So this mansion is kind of like a metaphor.
It is.
Of their whole relationship.
Yeah. This big dream that ended up in ruins.
What about their kids?
That's the saddest part of this whole story.
Yeah.
You know, they're the ones who are really caught in the middle.
Right. They've lost their dad.
Exactly.
And now their mom's in jail.
Right. They're with the member of Eric's family right now.
Okay.
And both sides are trying to get custody.
Wow. So it's a whole other battle.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Does Corey have any contact with her kids?
Well, Corey's mom has said that Corey tries to go to their sporting events to support them, but she can't really interact with them.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is a really tough situation.
Okay, so we've laid out all the basic information.
Yeah.
And we've seen that there's so many different interpretations of the evidence.
Absolutely.
What are some of the big questions that we need to think about?
Well, the biggest one, of course, is whether Eric's death was a murder or an accident.
Right. Was this premeditated or a tragic mistake?
Exactly. And if it was murder,
yeah,
why did Corey do it?
Right.
Was it really about the money?
Or was there something else going on?
That's what we need to figure out.
And what about those Google searches?
Right.
Are those really as incriminating
Yeah.
as the prosecution is making them seem?
It's possible.
Or could there be another reason for her to be looking that stuff up?
It's hard to say for sure.
And that jailhouse letter.
Oh, yeah.
What was that all about?
Was she really trying to tamper with a witness?
Yeah.
Or is her story about the book actually true?
That's a good question.
These are just some of the many mysteries that we need to unravel.
So we've got a lot more to discuss.
We do.
Make sure you join us for part 2.
Looking forward to it.
Where we're going to really get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, let's dig deeper.
Of this investigation.
Absolutely.
And examine all the evidence.
Can't wait.
See you there.
See you there.
All right, so we're back. And we're ready to really dig into the investigation.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Surrounding Corey Richens.
Okay.
So we know now that the prosecution needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she's responsible for Eric's death.
Absolutely.
What were some of the things that made investigators suspect foul play in the first place?
Well, one of the first things they always do is try to figure out exactly what happened.
Like a timeline.
Yeah, a timeline of events.
Okay.
So they looked at phone records, text messages, witness statements.
So they were trying to see if there were any inconsistencies in Corey's story.
Yeah.
Did they find any?
Well, remember how Corey said she and Eric had a Moscow mule to celebrate?
Yeah.
Well, investigators checked the glasses at their house, and they couldn't find any traces of alcohol or fentanyl on any of them.
So either she wasn't telling the truth about that drink, or she cleaned up really well.
Possibly.
Were there any other details?
Let's see.
That didn't quite add up.
Well, they also looked into that whole gummy theory.
Right.
Remember how Corey's family said that maybe Eric accidentally took a fentanyl-laced gummy?
Yeah.
Well, investigators couldn't find any evidence of any gummies or wrappers in the bedroom or the trash.
Interesting. So it seems like the more they looked into things, the more questions they had about Corey's story.
Right. But of course, that doesn't automatically mean she's guilty.
Of course not.
Just because something seems strange doesn't mean a crime was committed.
But it's definitely suspicious.
It is.
So let's talk about the life insurance policies again.
Okay.
6 policies seem excessive.
Yeah, I mean...
Even for a successful businessman.
Right.
Like Eric.
It does seem like a lot.
Did they find anything?
Well, remember that policy for $100,000?
The one that was taken out right before Eric died?
Was the one.
Yeah.
They had handwriting experts.
Okay.
Look at the signature on the application, and they said it was most likely forged.
Wow, so someone faked Eric's signature.
Seems that way.
And they got this policy without him knowing.
It's pretty clear.
Did they figure out who forged the signature?
Well, they couldn't say for sure.
Yeah.
But it definitely looks suspicious, especially since Eric never had the medical exam.
Right. Which you usually have to do.
Yeah, it's standard procedure.
So it seems like someone was trying to get this policy without Eric knowing about it.
Definitely.
Did they look into Corey's finances?
Oh, yeah, they looked at everything.
Okay.
And remember, she had a lot of debt.
Right, from her real estate business.
Exactly.
So the prosecution is saying that she had a financial motive to kill Eric.
Right. They're saying maybe she needed the money.
Okay, and that's where the life insurance comes in.
Exactly.
Did they find any evidence?
Well, right after Eric died, Corey tried to get into his accounts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she tried to transfer money into her own accounts, but she couldn't.
Why not?
Because of the prenup.
Oh, right.
It prevented her from accessing his assets.
So she tried to get his money.
Yeah.
But the prenup stopped her. That seems to support the prosecution's theory.
It does.
Okay, let's talk more about Carmen Lauber, the house cleaner. She's a really important witness.
She is.
For the prosecution. But her credibility is definitely questionable.
It is.
So what exactly did she tell investigators?
Well, she claims that she gave Corey fentanyl several times before Eric died.
And she says that Corey asked her for it.
Yeah, that's what she's saying.
And that Corey said she needed it for pain. But did she give them any proof?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
She didn't provide any text messages or receipts or anything like that.
So it's basically her word.
Yeah.
Against Corey's.
Pretty much.
Did the investigators find anything?
Well, they looked through Corey's phone records, and they didn't find any messages about fentanyl.
Okay.
But they did find some calls to an unknown number.
And they think that number might be CL's.
They suspect it might be.
But they can't prove it.
Not yet.
So the defense could argue
absolutely,
that those calls were about something else.
Exactly.
It seems like there's a lot of interpretation involved in this case.
There is.
Like without hard evidence.
Right.
It's hard to say for sure what really happened.
It's a real battle of narratives.
Yeah. The prosecution is saying that Corey was greedy and desperate for money.
Right.
And that she saw Eric as a way out.
And the defense is saying she was a loving wife.
Who's been wrongly accused?
And that the evidence is weak.
So who will the jury believe?
That's the million-dollar question.
And all this while,
yeah,
the kids are stuck in the middle.
It's a terrible situation.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we've seen how the prosecution is building their case, but we still have a lot to uncover.
We do.
Join us for part 3.
Okay.
Where we'll look at the defense's strategy.
Sounds good.
And what this case might mean for the future.
See you there.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Corey Richens case.
Yeah.
We've heard the prosecution side.
All right.
Now let's see what the defense is doing to try to protect her.
It's fascinating how both sides are really spinning a story based on the same evidence.
Yeah, it's like they're both looking at the same puzzle pieces.
Exactly.
But they're putting them together in completely different ways.
It's all about interpretation.
Right. So the prosecution is saying that Corey was motivated by money.
Yeah.
That she was in debt. And she saw Eric's death as a way to solve her financial problems.
That's their theory.
But the defense is fighting back.
Of course.
They're saying that Corey loved Eric.
Yeah.
And that she would never hurt him.
Right. They're painting a picture of a grieving wife who's been falsely accused.
So how are they trying to prove that?
Well, first of all, they're going after the credibility of some of the witnesses. Like Carmen Lauber.
Right, CL.
Yeah, the house cleaner.
Who claims she gave Corey the fentanyl.
Exactly. They're pointing out that she's a convicted felon. And that her story has changed a few times.
Okay, so they're trying to make the jury doubt her.
Yeah, basically they're saying she can't be trusted.
Okay, what about those Google searches?
Well, the defense is saying that those searches were made after Eric died.
Right, so not before.
Exactly. So they're arguing that Corey was just trying to understand
what was happening.
Like why people were accusing her.
Yeah, maybe she was just curious. Or maybe she was scared.
Okay, so they're saying it wasn't premeditation.
Right.
It was just a reaction
to this situation.
And what about all those life insurance policies?
Well, the defense says that most of those policies were already in place before any of this happened.
So it's just normal financial planning.
Exactly. Yeah. They're saying the prosecution is making a big deal out of nothing.
So basically, we have two very different stories here.
We do.
And it's up to the jury to decide which one they believe.
They have to weigh all the evidence, listen to all the testimony,
and figure out who's telling the truth.
It's a tough job.
It is. And this case has really captured the public's attention.
It has.
It makes you think about how easily things can go wrong.
It really does.
You know, 1 minute, everything seems fine. And then the next,
your whole life changes. Yeah. Exactly. And in this case, there were children involved who were caught in the middle.
And no matter what happens, their lives will never be the same.
This case is really a tragedy.
It is.
No matter how you look at it.
You're right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we're still left with a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, that's the nature of circumstantial evidence.
Right. We may never know for sure what really happened.
It's possible.
But even without all the answers, this case can teach us a lot.
I agree.
It reminds us to think critically, to question everything, and to remember that everyone has their own perspective.
Absolutely.
So as you follow this case, don't just accept what you hear.
No.
Do your own research.
Exactly.
And make up your own mind.
The truth is out there.
It is somewhere.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
On this deep dive.
It's been a fascinating case. Until next time, keep searching for the truth.
Always.